Oh, and good evening. It's April 29th, 2025, and we're continuing our discussion collection in our Outside the Class series. This series is from the Bible Project, covers the entire TaNaK, right? The Old Testament. Those source videos are set up for your review on TheDustyFeet.com in the Outside the Class section. Because the intent of Outside the Class is just for you to listen to that in-class lecture first. Those videos aren't really very long, but these we're going to try to keep to about 15 minutes because we want to make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but maybe with a fun and different twist. Our hope with the Dusty Feed is to foster discussion and help build and support communities. If you are not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. DustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Facebook, at TheDustyFeet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. And 3. We have a Discord channel. The invite link is there below. Be vocal, be written, be loving. And 4, and as always, you are welcome to send an email to bob@TheDustyFeet.com. These places, they will be moderated, and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on the Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. And of course, before we forget, if you find these kinds of podcasts helpful, that's when you click the subscribe button, please. The reminders, though, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you click that like button, because that is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. This series, again, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, the Old Testament, but we're going to do them in the Hebrew Scriptures order. That's the original order of this collection. Remember, the videos we're going to discuss, they're just the tip of an iceberg. They're part of a learning series that I highly recommend, and they can all be found on the Bible Project website. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things, but answers, we'll see. Samuel, first scroll. This is our part 2. So we ended the last episode with Hannah conceiving her son, naming him Samuel. When you look at this woman, Elkanah's second wife, right? She desperately wants a child. There are lots of underlying reasons for that, I suppose. We can go from the biological desire to have children and to the fact that in ancient times, across many different cultures, it was a blessing for a husband to have children, a lineage to pass on that you were both a part of. This is an essential thought. It's a practice in the biblical narrative to carry on bloodline. But this story, it goes a bit further. Because Hannah seems to take this to another level. She wants to have a child, but she's so eager to have it that she wants to give it back to the Creator who helped her have it. In the biblical narrative, each barren woman with children had a different response. What I mean is how they responded to that, what followed afterwards, the rest of the story. Because remember, with Samson, not everything was good. There are similarities with a few of the stories. They're worth looking at. I highly suggest that you do. But this one with Hannah, it goes in an interesting direction because she is a child and then immediately says it's God's. Elkanah, her husband, he doesn't balk at all, right? He doesn't hesitate. And as we continue the story, now we're at a year later. It's time to go back to Shiloh. But remember the last time we were there? There was a desperate cry, a desperate plea in front of a priest, a continued merciless teasing from Elkanah's other wife. But this time it's different. Things are going to be different. But then Hannah pauses. Hannah says, I'm not ready to give the child up until he's finished being weaned. Yeah? Chapter 1, verse 21. Then the man, Elkanah, went up with all his household to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, I will not go up until the child is weaned. Then I will bring him, and he may appear before the Lord and stay there forever. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Do what seems best to you. Remain until you've weaned him. Only may the Lord confirm his word. So the woman remained, nursed her son until she weaned him. Now when she'd weaned him, she took him up with her, with a 3-year-old bull, 1 ephah of flour, a jug of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, although the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli. And she said, Oh, my Lord, it's your soul lives, my Lord, and I'm the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. For this is the boy I prayed, and the Lord has given me my petition, which I asked of him. So I've also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord. And he worshiped there. Scripture does not tell us how prolonged weaning should take, right? I like that. We don't know how long this could have been. Could have been the following year. Could have been a couple of years. I have no problem either way. Hannah was preparing to give her child Samuel to the Lord. When she finally reaches the point where she feels he's been weaned, she brings the requisite sacrifices that are needed for the Nazirite vow, this dedication vow, this giving to God as a dedication. But did you notice, as we mentioned earlier, that Elkanah didn't balk, right? Because notice in verse 21, and pay his vow. He was honoring his wife's vow. That's a great topic for another discussion later on. But, quick side note of interest. We're not going to go down this path, but keep it in the back of your head. This is the vow that Paul gets involved with when he's called back to Jerusalem by the Council of 70, right? They want to have a conversation about the rumors that have been spreading that he was not teaching Torah practice. In this vow, this Nazirite vow, he gets involved with something that helps the Council of 70 see what Paul is saying. He said, let me put my money where my mouth is and my practice where I say it is, by being involved in and being part of those people's Nazirite vow. So here we have Hannah bringing her 3-year-old bull, her 1 ephah of flour, and a jug of wine for the sacrifices to dedicate her son to God forever. A pastor friend and I, Joe Christmas at the Vine, we talk a lot about when things come together, especially when we seem to look back, right? It's almost always a looking back scenario. It's very seldom in the moment. But when we tend to coin the phrase, and it's not unique, people probably heard it before, it's that divine appointment, right? Where God seems to have helped along an intersection where 2 roads meet. Eli and Hannah, they're meeting again. And they meet, and they reconnect, and they worship. After her sacrifice, Hannah offers up a prayer. It continues not to surprise me, but I do smile more often when it happens about how things at times, at least for me, seem to, for lack of a better term, come together. Because it just so happens that on our Sons of the Father series on the Dusty Feet, we're just beginning to address this topic of prayer. We want to have a chat about it. So this is probably one of the prayer points that we can address in that discussion series, right? Hannah's prayer. It's engaging. It's heartfelt. It's heart pouring. Chapter 2, verse 1. Then Hannah prayed and she said, my heart exults in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth speaks boldly against my enemies, because I rejoice in your salvation. There is no one holy like the Lord. Indeed, there's no one besides you, nor is there any rock like our God. Boast no more so very proudly. Do not let arrogance come out of your mouth, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, and with him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty are shattered, but the feeble gird on strength. Those who were full hired themselves out for bread, but those who were hungry cease to hunger. Even the barren gives birth to 7, but she who has many children languishes. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and he raises. The Lord makes poor and rich. He brings low and he also exalts. He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with the nobles. They inherit a seat of honor, for the pillars of the earth are the Lord's. He set the world on them. He keeps the feet of his godly ones, but the wicked ones are silenced in darkness. For not by might shall man prevail. Those who contend with the Lord will be shattered. Against them he will thunder in the heavens. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king, and he will exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went to his home in Ramah, but the boy ministered to the Lord before Eli the priest. Prayers. Prayers that we see in Scripture. They're interesting for many reasons. When we read them, I don't think it's what we'd expect. I mean, compared to how we might pray today on April 24th, 2025. But I think they still have a lot to say. This one fascinates me because you could take this prayer and ask somebody about back then to discuss the various elements that are spoken of, they're addressed inside of it. And you'll probably get a very different response than, say, we would today. Because you can read this prayer today and your responses will probably be what we've come to expect, just maybe in that expectation. I think we might pause when asked because there might be some different ways we might tend to look at something that maybe this does and doesn't talk about. Because this prayer, it talks about salvation, talks about the rock, girding for protection, the Lord giving and the Lord taking away. Sheol, rising up. It talks about God judging. No one will escape. And a king. We need to remember, the kings in Israel don't exist yet. It's just that Samuel's going to become an integral part of that. Like I said, this is a prayer that might have been understood differently when Hannah talked about it. Now, and more like how would we look at it today? Because it's prophetic? I'm not compelled it's prophetic as in necessarily speaking of the future. It's more about how God thinks and maybe how God expresses things. Salvation, rock, king. We know we've heard these themes in the past, looking back, which would be Jesus' present, and it would be Hannah's future. I think I'm giving you a lot to talk about amongst yourselves, right? There's a lot to ponder. There are questions to ask each other. And look at this amazing woman who asked something from God, and then she gave it back. When we get to the next episode, we're going to get to one that we could say is the opposite of this, right? as well. Well, you know me, I'm not a big fan of section headers in Scripture. I think at times they can mislead. They give us predisposed thinking when you look at something rather than maybe taking a chance to step back, look at it in the fuller context of where it sits and what it is. Still, in this particular one, they might have tended to lean towards one more on the spot: Eli's worthless sons. Ought to be an interesting discussion. So, thanks for with us tonight for another edition of Outside the Class, the Scroll of Samuel, on the Dusty Feet.